Howdy, folks and friends. Some of you may not know this about me, but I am terrible at watching movies. I pick like 5 titles that I really love, and then I just watch those on a loop for years to come. So it was rather confusing when I was scrolling one night and found this movie, Finding Jesus. I think the thing that hooked me was the 1.3 out of 10 IMDb rating. It's not every day that you see something like that. So needless to say, I had to watch this. Upon first glance, this looks like your typical run-of-the-mill Christian knockoff. First impressions are that this is going to be Finding Nemo, but with just Bible verses, right? We're going to follow this dude who's going to go missing, and then he's going to somehow find Jesus and his faith while trying to get home. Let's read the official summary for this film. Join faith-fueled friends Muggles and Joy as they visit the beautiful Finding Jesus Bay, a place where Christian stories are told night and day. Guided by the sea's best storyteller, Professor Shark, they hear all about the endless kindness and boundless love of their creator. Muggles? Joy? Finding Jesus Bay? Fucking Professor Shark? I already have so many questions. When I first read this, I was predicting that we were going to get a story about 2 fish, apparently. Anyway, they're trying to find this mysterious and holy place called Jesus Bay, and along the way, they're going to hear a bunch of stories about God, and then this Professor Shark is going to be like their guide, I guess. And then by the time they get to Jesus Bay, they're going to be like devout Christians or some shit, and they'll have gone on this massive journey, and then it's like their holy land and just blech. But I'm getting too hung up on the details. Let's just dive into this. Our movie opens up with a glimpse at a small island that vaguely reminds me of the island from SpongeBob. We get the title card and then our narrator starts talking. She introduces the yellow fish from the cover as Muggles and also introduces us to this blue fish named Joy. And the narrator is very quick to call out the fact that they are babies. I don't know if I mention it very clearly later in the video, but we learn at some point in the middle of this movie that they're only 2 weeks old. The babies are out looking for algae, talking about how fun it is to swim with a buddy, and Muggles says that it's fin-tastic. And then when they laugh, it is by far one of the worst sounds in the world. It is literally worse than the time that my future mother-in-law's best friend said the word libtard while being fully serious. We pan to our main reef, also called Bubble Town, where we meet Professor Shark. But before we do that, the transition that the editors of this movie decided to use to get us through every transition, I don't know what else to call it. It's the fucking SpongeBob bubble transition. Like, y'all see it too, right? We meet Professor Shark and learn that Muggles and Joy are his youngest students, and he also enthuses about the day and how calm it is, which really just kind of prompts Joy, who is our first fish of the movie, to properly speak about Jesus. She says,
Jesus sure has blessed us with lives in such a beautiful underwater universe.
Professor Shark commends them for having their minds in the right place.
Ew.
And then says that they have a lot that they could teach others. They rightfully ask how that's possible given that they are so young. But Professor Shark, being the wonderful teacher that he is, reassures them by saying, by not losing sight of the simple blessings Jesus has bestowed upon us. He continues on spewing a lot more Jesus stuff, like how they should live their lives to the fullest and honor their creator. Then Professor Shark gets a bright idea. He asks Muggles and Joy if they can go help out someone named Scary Henry.
Scary Henry? Scary Henry?
Yes, Scary Henry!
Apparently, he normally has a less than positive reputation, but as of late, he's been exceedingly unhappy, according to Professor Shark. He's not sure why, though, and so he basically just sends the kids out to go figure out what's going on. And if they think that he's willing, invite him back. At one point, Joy is like, you want us to gaslight him into being like, life ain't so bad, life's a gift from Jesus. And then Muggles adds to this conversation is, yeah, like, it's never that bad so long as you have all your gills and fins. And then he pauses. And then he's like, but even then, it's still peachy. Like, bro had to backtrack before he got called out for ableism. Anyway, Joy and Muggles are about to leave to go swim off and find Scary Henry. But before they go, Muggles has to follow it up with,
in Jesus' name.
and then instead of just transitioning us like normal to the next scene where it just kind of like fades out or pans to the next scene, we get like, I don't even know how else to explain it. We get a fucking commercial break. commercial break in a movie. And there's so many of them too. Like, I can only guess that they included these to pad the runtime. This whole movie is an hour and 6 minutes, but if you were to take out all these little pauses and bubble transitions and fucking commercial breaks, this movie would be like 30 minutes tops. Something I also want to mention is that I had to watch this movie every single time on 1.5 speed because they talk so fucking slow. So my thought moving forward when I first watched this was that, okay, this is the mission. Professor Shark has sent these babies off. They're going to learn how to help Scary Henry. And along the way, they're going to like get him to be a good Christian noodle or whatever and like teach him all this Jesus stuff, basically convert him and then bring him back to Professor Shark so that they can get some like reward or praise or whatever. Muggle and Joy just swim up to Scary Henry and he is terrifying. But they go up to Scary Henry, which they call him to his face, by the way, and then ask how he's doing. He's all down in the dumps because life stinks, so the kids try to gaslight him as they had planned, and Henry ends up asking why they even came since they're babies with their whole lives ahead of them, which, honestly, good question. I'd be a little curious why these literal infants are coming up trying to talk to me about life when they are 2 weeks old, but I digress. Scary Henry also tells us that he doesn't have a home anymore, so I'm really curious how these babies are now going to solve underwater homelessness. They try to tell Scary Henry that we're your family because, like, in the sea, we're all family. Like, the ocean is just one big Olive Garden, but without any of the unlimited breadsticks and Tuscan theming. Apparently, though, the fish's gaslighting kind of starts to work because Henry does agree to come along. He's glum about it, but progress is progress. But no, that's not enough for Muggles. He ends up being like,
That's it. Just, okay.
and then Henry calls Muggles out, asking him if he like expects him to do surface breaks, which I can assume are like the crab version of backflips. And then Muggles says this weird thing about how they may not be the same species, but they think of him as family anyway, which really just comes off as kind of culty, I'm not gonna lie. Don't love the red flags that is raising. Joy also has to throw in that Jesus loves him too, and yeah, Muggles is like, can't forget about Jesus. Muggles and Joy end up going on about how Jesus loves everyone and how if we're on Earth, then we're in his home because that's where Jesus wants us to be, I guess. I don't know, man. I was raised Jewish. Henry continues to try and politely decline the baby's offers. They are little relentless preachers in training. At one point, Muggles calls Scary Henry again, that name, and then Henry actually calls him out and is like, bro, you try going places and having everyone call you that. It kind of fucking stinks. I don't want to go anywhere. The babies realize they're not getting anywhere, so Joy is like, oh my god, we should go talk to Mrs. Wedley. She's old, she's wise, she's been around forever. She'll know how to help us with this whole Henry ordeal. They try one last time to get Henry to come with them to go see Mrs. Wedley, but he's perfectly content where he's at, so the babies go off on their own. So again, on my first watch through at this point, I'm now predicting, surely this is the plot now, right? We've got our setup, we've got our characters, we got our issue. We're gonna start making some progress. Muggles and Joy greet Mrs. Wedley, and she exclaims how long it's been since she sees them, and that's just quintessential old lady shit. She asks why they've come to visit, and then that prompts Joy to tell her that their friend is really down and has forgotten about the important things in life, which Muggles feels the need to add is the simple stuff. She says that their friend must need a lesson in gratitude, and then Mrs. Wedley speaks some wonderful words of wisdom to us. Exercising regular gratitude to God can work wonders in our lives and our bad moods. She also reminds the babies to refer to the good book and then quotes Psalm chapter 9, verse 1, which says, I will give thanks to the Lord with my whole heart. I will recount all of his wondrous deeds. And then she tells the babies to go tell their friend that no matter what, Jesus is just like never out of sight, which not sure how those quotes work together with that messaging. Anyway, Muggles and Joy return to Henry after talking to Mrs. Wedley, and they ask if he's feeling any better, and he has to give them the ultimate sassy response of, do I look any better? Honestly, if I had a bunch of preachy kids coming to me over and over and over again trying to get me to leave my goblin cave, I'd probably have some sass with them too. In fact, I'd probably cuss them out, but we're not gonna see that here, are we? Joy tells Henry what Mrs. Wedley taught them about how through Jesus anything is possible, and then she also tells him that if you give Jesus all of your love and praise and all of the things you have in your heart, then you have the slim chance to receive a richer and more fulfilled heart. I half expect Henry to just scoff and be sassy again, but no, apparently he's feeling a tad bit inspired. And then Muggles does like one of those stupid I see you smiling jokes to Henry, which is where I have to call out the animation a bit, because all they fucking do is smile. No one emotes, no one changes their expressions the entire film. Your voices don't even match your mouths. None of it matches. So why are we trying to do this like visual gag when you're not specifically animating the movie to play into those gags? There are so many times in this movie where their voice makes me think like, oh, they should be doing like a backflip excitedly or swimming in a circle, you know, because they're excited. And then they just stay in the same idle position. It's so fucking dumb. And it just, ugh. The conversation's over. Henry's feeling great. Joy continues to push her Jesus bullshit. And on my original watch through, I'm assuming one of two things, because it's very clear that this movie is not going to play out like a regular movie would. So I'm thinking in my original playthrough, one of two things is what is going to happen. One, this movie is going to play out kind of like a Kronk's New Groove type vibe where it's just a bunch of anthology shit. Number two is that there was no logic put into this movie and that it is in fact just a bunch of short stories. Basically a compilation fraught with rip-off transitions and random ass commercial breaks to pad the runtime. Honestly, it really seems like they just wanted to make this a TV show, but they couldn't get the funding, and so this is like their pilot tester, and it's just on Amazon now for you to watch. We get back to Bubbletown with Professor Shark, and he asked the babies how things went, and they said that it was very successful, but that they did have to go to Mrs. Woodley. And of course, they also have to remind him that Jesus helped too. Professor Shark chortles at the end of this is like, as he's known to do about Jesus. And it's just, here's where I feel I need to rip the Band-Aid off. If you hadn't figured out, the correct answer to my question earlier was number two. There's no logic put into this movie at all. This movie, which really is just a glorified compilation, it's just a bunch of short stories. But think back to our synopsis that we read. This is nothing like that synopsis. Again, it really feels like they wanted to make a TV show, but no one would take it and turn it into one with proper funding and animators and all that stuff. So this is just supposed to be some kind of like promotional or kind of like a pilot. Anyway, this whole movie is made up of 6 short stories. We've watched the first one. We've got 5 more to go. Let's just keep swimming. Story number 2. In this story, Muggles and Joy are coming back from swimming together in the jet stream, and their conversation is really just talking about how they're best friends, la-di-da, great for you guys. As annoying as he often is, Muggles does have one good line in this opening scene for episode 2 or story 2, and I have to play it for you guys.
Well, of course I'm cool. I'm an ocean fish. My body temperature hovers around 37 degrees Celsius. Are you sure you're not a clownfish?
I will say his stupid laugh and Joy's dumbass comment kind of ruined the thought though, but it's all right. We get more bubbles and then find Professor Shark at the edge of Bubbletown in the exact same place as he always is, and he welcomes them back, and Muggles is like, it's great to be back. And then Joy says something that kind of catches me off guard. She says, yeah, it's not easy swimming around with all these new predators in the sea. Ahem. Racism disguised as food chain related concerns. That is very not Fin-tastic of you guys. Professor Shark says that they've done a great job and then asks them to go out again on his behalf. And they don't want to go out because they've been swimming all day. Professor Shark tells them that the person he needs them to go check on is Marlowe the swordfish. And Joy makes a joke about Marlowe not being able to cut his way out of any situation. And this triggers just another nauseating round of their laughter. Kill me now. Professor Shark ends up getting them to calm down a little bit and talks to them very seriously, being like he's tangled up in some seaweed and he can't move. And Professor Shark doesn't outright say that Marlowe could die, but he sure as shit heavily implies it, which kind of gets the kids moving and grooving just a little bit more. Professor Shark also has to tell them that he's not exactly sure where Marlowe is, but that he sent out a distress signal so that they can just lock onto that, I guess. I have so many questions about the logic, and I know it's an animated movie and meant for kids and really just as a vessel to preach, but like, I can't. And yet we're gonna continue. The kids ask how long he's been stuck for, and Professor Shark tells them, oh, he's been stuck for several minutes already. And I don't know about you, but that sure would put a fire under my ass to fucking get moving to go save him. But instead, Muggles and Joy just have a conversation with Professor Shark. And while I'm watching this whole ordeal play out, I'm just thinking, Professor Shark, why don't you go? Why are we making them swim across the ocean to go save a literal swordfish? You're a shark. You are seaweed sized, okay? These fish, these babies, can't solve the problem. Professor Shark then continues on his bullshit and tells them that their friend Pickles is already out looking for Marlowe, but that still doesn't put a fire under their ass. Joy just turns to ask about friendship, and Professor Shark gives her this like whole long explanation with a bunch of Jesus bullshit sprinkled in there for good measure, because of course we cannot forget about him in this movie. The babies finally leave and we get a few transitions, and then when they spot Pickles, this is what he looks like. Also, he's got an Irish accent for some reason, or Scottish or something. I can't always tell the difference, but like, why? Why is that necessary? Is it for someone's fucking demo reel? Is all of this just for someone's demo reel? Anyway, Pickles is happy to report to Muggles and Joy that Marlowe was able to free himself. The babies ask Pickles if they can go see Marlowe, and he's like, yep, and then tells them where to go. And they go over, and as you can guess, Marlowe is completely fine. Joy asks if he's all right, and instead of answering, Marlowe is just like, ugh, you guys, what are you doing all the way out here? Joy explains to them that they're his friends, and this just blows Marlowe's mind, apparently, because just like Henry, he seems to not be the most social or popular of the sea creatures. Muggles tells Marlowe that they just want to help and know that he, Marlowe, is safe. And then this prompts Joy to bring up Jesus Christ in the conversation, because what else can we expect? She basically says to him, yeah, Jesus gave us a great friend in you, Marlowe, and we honor our friends because he gave them to us. Again, really just being like, I do things because Jesus says to, not at all because I want to or it's the right thing. It's what I'm told to do is the right thing. So I'll just do that because it's what I'm told, not because it's what I innately and internally feel, which just red flags fucking everywhere. At some point in their interaction, Muggles mentions how most people would look at the three of them and wonder what they all have in common, but that it's in fact the different parts that make them all so compatible, which I guess if I were a small fish and I had a swordfish friend, yeah, it'd be pretty nice to have a friend like that because they're scary and would keep the other predators away. But also, like, I don't know, they do all this ass kissing and yet it really is just coming off as love bombing in a way. Like, they're just like, wow, we're your friend, and you know, Jesus loves you and you're such a great guy. And it's just this poor innocent swordfish needs like a genuine friend and possibly needed help out of a really dangerous situation. And instead he sent two babies who are just too busy sipping on kelp juice Kool-Aid to actually be of any real help. Before we get another commercial break and bubble transition, Marlowe tells the babies that they've done a great thing and he wants to reward them. So they go off with him and he shows them this algae bed that he found. And we learned that the reason Marlowe got stuck is because he had found the little algae bed and he was racing to go tell people, and then he got himself tangled up in his excitement. And so in the end, he got to tell people anyway. Whoop-de-fucking-do. And I, at this point, am thinking, oh, the scene's over, but no. Now it's time for Marlowe to tell us a little Bible story, and we get to hear about David and Jonathan.
In the Old Testament's book of Samuel, it says, after David had finished talking with Saul, he met Jonathan, the king's son. There was an immediate bond between them, for Jonathan loved David. From that day on, Saul kept David with him and wouldn't let him return home. And Jonathan made a solemn pact with David, because he loved him as he loved himself.
Wow, that sounds like some friendship.
I'm no Bible expert by any stretch of the imagination, but you cannot tell me that doesn't sound gay as fuck, right? Like some friendship. Bro, you sound like they're fucking forbidden lovers. Tell me I'm wrong. Religious scholars in the comments. Whatever. This second story wraps up pretty quick after this. Muggles and Joy return to Professor Shark. They let him know that Marlowe is a-okay and that he didn't actually need them in the first place. Professor Shark asks them if they learned anything about friendship, and then they tell him the story about Jonathan and David that they learned from Marlowe. That's really the end of that one. Story number 3. This one only took 4 pages of notes, so hopefully I can sum it up pretty quickly because some of these other stories have a lot to unpack. This one opens with the narrator telling us that the babies are coming home from visiting some other reefs for the first time. When the kids get to Professor Shark, he asks them what they've been up to, and Muggles and Joy very proudly tell him that they've been visiting other towns and were actually able to bring them a bunch of algae from a bed they found nearby. And no, this is not the algae bed that Marlowe showed them in the last story. No. This is a different one that they found because continuity doesn't exist in this world, I guess. Professor Shark commends them for this great deed and is like, they must have appreciated you doing that for them, just like so many people here in your own town appreciate you. Again, really hammering in on those culty vibes. We learned that the animal who told them about this algae bed is named Patty the Whale. Professor Shark tells the kids that they must have this like unbelievable strength, and Muggles, because he's a literal baby, thinks that this means like physical strength, so he starts like getting all macho and flexing, and Professor Shark has to be like, no, not real strength, Bible strength. The kind found in serving and not being served. And so Muggles and Joy connect the dots and are like, oh, So because we gave to other people and not just ourselves, we got closer to Jesus? And Professor Shark goes, indeed. Like, he's so proud of them that he decides to give them the day off from sending them off on do-gooder missions. Muggles and Joy go out and eventually come across their friend Fizzy, and we learn that Fizzy and her family just moved into a new home. And she asks Muggles and Joy how they're doing, and they tell her all about the good deed that they did earlier, giving food to the other towns. And she compliments them, but this goes to their head really quickly, and they start getting kind of cocky about things. So Fizzy has to call them out on it and remind them that they shouldn't be too prideful. And the babies have to ask what prideful means. So Fizzy tells them about Jesus Christ and how he once told a dinner host that you should invite those who can't give back because, like, your friends and family and those who are wealthy will always make sure they repay you, you know, like give a little, get a little. But, you know, the people who don't have anything can't always do that. And so we want to be kind to them. And because that's like what Jesus and God want, or fucking whatever. Anyway, this whole lecture gives Joy the idea for her and Muggles to go give something to Patty the whale in return. It's not exactly what Fizzy told them to do, but like, I get where they're going. I don't think that Patty's probably down on her luck right now. Maybe she is. Seems like everyone we go and hang out with is a loner and needs some help, but what do I know, you know? Like, I would think that if anything, they're gonna go find some homeless fish and bring them the algae this time. Anyway, the babies end up setting off to go do something good for Patty, and Fizzy goes off inspired by them to go do a good deed of her own. When Muggles and Joy get to Patty, they tell her that they want to give her a gift, and she's like in shock because I called it, just like the others. She's never had someone to give her a gift before. Like, these babies are being taught to target social outcasts and then like try to convert them to Christianity in hopes of bringing them into like their culty community so that they can flood the fish election polls or whatever. Like, these babies are just like pawns in a bigger game. But Muggles and Joy bring Patty to a seabed full of her favorite food, which is crustaceans, and she's so surprised. But the babies try to remain humble and be like, psh, don't even worry about it, girlfriend. Like, you did something nice for us. But Patty, again, being the loner that she is still gobsmacked and confused because all she did was just show them an algae bed. And they're like, yes, you did, but you didn't ask for anything in return. So you get a little reward. The babies get back to Professor Shark. They tell him what they did. He's super proud. And then Professor Shark says this quote:
Serving others without being asked or coerced rewards our souls in ways we never imagined.
I'm gonna come out and say it. I don't like how the word coerced is being used in this context. Having Professor Shark use it in this context, it almost just encourages them to just do what makes others happy and ask questions later, I feel like, because if we make other people happy, then that'll make us happy because that's what Jesus wants. But like, what happens when that's not the case? What happens when someone has ill intentions? But this story wraps up, thank goodness, super fast. And then they swim off so they can think of all the good things that they can do tomorrow. Story number 4. This one starts with Muggles and Joy having spent the morning frolicking in the open ocean. On their way back, Joy says to Muggles that she's worried because they didn't do their homework, and Muggles just suggests that they lie to Professor Shark and then vow that they'll study extra harder later to make up for it on their own. The babies meet up with Professor Shark, who asks them what they've been up to. Then he asks if they've done their homework, and little do the babies know that some other students saw them playing in the open water. So when they lie, he's able to catch them and then tell them how disappointed he is in them. Professor Shark is also sure to point out that he usually admires them a lot and how much they study, and he kind of likes to give all the fish in their school the benefit of the doubt, but then he also like lays the guilt on really thick. He mentions that Muggles and Joy, they're like the best of all of his students, and then he also brings up how they're also like the youngest, which like, bruh, you're so quick to send these literal babies off to rescue like a fully grown swordfish in peril, and then also send them off to talk to a guy named Scary Henry, who both of them had less than positive reactions to hearing the name of. So I don't particularly like Professor Shark very much because I feel like he has some nefarious thoughts going on in his head. But I digress. In the end, he's like, hey, see how bad you babies feel, so I'm gonna forgive you. Professor Shark tells the babies that he'd like them to go and meet with someone named Mr. Flips and someone named Mr. Sushi, which, like, Mr. Sushi? I believe the 2004 cinematic masterpiece Shark Tale did this type of joke best.
It's gonna be alright.
this Christian propaganda has not filled me with the confidence needed to believe that they're gonna do this joke better than DreamWorks did. But apparently, Mr. Sushi can shed some light on the concept of moral purity, whatever the fuck that is. And of course, since the babies feel so bad, they're like, yes, Professor Shark, we will go right away. And so a commercial break and bubble transition later, we meet Mr. Flips, who is a dolphin, as one could predict. Muggle starts their conversation off by being like, I don't know if you've heard. And then Mr. Flips is happy to say it for Muggles.
About you guys lying to Professor Shark? Yeah, I heard about it.
But my biggest question in all of this is, how did Mr. Flips know about what the babies did so fast? And so in my notes, I narrowed it down to 3 options. 1, that it takes Muggles and Joy so long to swim to their destination because they're literal babies that Professor Shark has enough time to take a secret back route and tell the person he's sending them to what to say to them so that the lesson he wants them to learn is achieved. Number 2, shell or clam phones or something to that extent exist in this universe. Or 3, Professor Shark is just Jesus Christ himself in fish form and uses his holy powers to telepathically transmit information across the ocean to these other fish. Comment below which one you think it is. The babies like beg and plead to Mr. Flips, being like, oh my gosh, we're never gonna do it again. Normally we always do our homework and we just lost of track this one time. And Joy is like especially worried that now no one they know at home is gonna trust them. And like, yeah, if you're being raised in a cult and you make one wrong move, one wrong decision, that is usually something to be worried about. So this like anxiety that Joy is exhibiting is very well founded in what I know of cults. Flips decides to share some words of wisdom with us from the book of Timothy. Can't take that name seriously, but this is what he says. Don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. And as one could expect, Muggles and Joy are gobsmacked by this information. Mr. Flips is of course like, yeah, I know. Pretty great, right? Mr. Flips tells the babies that Professor Shark wants him to send them to Mr. Sushi. But the babies go and meet up with Mr. Sushi, and he's just a piece of sushi. And if that's not enough to set you off, his accent that he speaks in is just so unbelievably offensive.
Oh my! I always thought you two were good little fish. Only a few weeks old.
I know. Hard to believe. In my Christian movie, an offensive accent? Unheard of. Unfounded. Mr. Sushi asks the babies what they need, which is odd because it seems like everyone else is locked in with Professor Shark on how to indoctrinate the youths. Muggles just confesses for them and then Joy is distraught. Mr. Sushi tells them that normally he knows them for being so good, but now it's not so much. He doesn't know if he can trust them, and it just adds to Joy's distraughtness. Mr. Sushi reminds us that in his infinite wisdom, Jesus forgives. But of course, Joy is still concerned. The worrisome girl her indoctrination has made her into. So Mr. Sushi has to continue and say to them, the curse of God is on the house of the wicked, but he blesses the home of those who do him right, basically. Professor Sushi just takes them to a second location, and it's like a sunken ship, and he's like, a bunch of the old timers know where this is. And Muggles and Joy are over the moon about this because it's like a fun new area. And Mr. Sushi is like, yeah, there's tons of stuff that you can like look at here to study from. And they're like, whoa, studying and learning? Who would have fucking thunk it? And Mr. Sushi is very clear that he's only showing them this because he sees how their lie has weighed heavily on them and that normally he wouldn't do this. Muggles is still a little bit worried about his standing with Jesus, so he asks Mr. Sushi if he thinks that Jesus forgives them, and he's like, of course he does. He always accepts honesty. So I guess the moral of the story here is that as long as I'm honest about every single little thing I do, no matter how heinous, I'll just be like, fine, right? If I don't lie, I can do whatever I want. But whatever, this is enough to make the babies feel better. So they return to Bubbletown and see Professor Shark, and he asks if they've learned anything valuable. We wrap up the thing. They've all learned from their mistakes, and now they're going to follow Jesus's plan more because they're not going to go out and lie. Story number 5 is really where things get a bit unhinged. The story starts with a lore drop telling us that Bubbletown, or the Reef as it's often referred to as, they don't ever say Bubbletown, but I refer to it as because that's what's on the marquee of the town, that Professor Shark is always at, it's been destroyed by some strong currents, I fucking guess. So they've all had to relocate. But the problem is that when we look at the new setting, when Muggles and Joy swim up to Professor Shark, it's the exact same as before. Like, not anything painted differently, nothing colored differently. It's all identical. So at this point, I'm concerned and bothered. Why are we even trying to have lore? Because again, up to this point, we've just been doing things, all this nonsense with no consequences and no effect on other episodes or other stories in this overarching movie. And then I thought that I was done there. But when Muggles and Joy finally get to Professor Shark, he's talking and then he says something that sent me on a multi-page rant in my notes. He says to the babies, "Praise be to Jesus that we're blessed with young fish as reliable as you two." And we've already discussed at length today that these babies are very clearly having adult expectations projected onto them. They're probably being raised in a very culty town based on the language that they use. And they're always being asked to do these like grown-up tasks like rescue adults, trying to convince people to join and like have friends and like come out of their shell and do all the stuff that normally we would not put children or babies or like little kids in charge of. And don't get me wrong, Muggles and Joy do tend to go the distance for what Professor Shark sets out for them to do. However, we also get constant references throughout our stories to the fact that they're babies. And everyone knows this. Like people, all the different fish kind of refer to them as like the babies. Like everyone knows that they're young. And it seems to be implied that due to their love of Jesus and like indoctrination into this cult and following of his lessons, that they're like more grown up or more responsible or more mature. And that's really what got me, was the idea of them like they have to act so much more mature and following what their religious leader or their religious teacher says and always trying to strive for this like ideal, perfect, ask no questions, do what you're told. And that's when it really hit me that these fish are being groomed. This is a story about fish being fucking groomed. And I know it's a big jump. I know it's a big leap to say that they're being groomed because it's a cartoon thing. It has no continuity, but think about it, guys. Think about it. These fish, Muggles and Joy, are so deeply connected to their teacher, Professor Shark, and he's the one telling them about Jesus and telling them these stories and having them learn how to recite these Bible quotes and going out and practicing how to be good little followers in their cult. And he's sending them on fucking missions. He's sending two babies, again, to go very far away, potentially get into trouble to go help other people when that is not their role. But they end up being fine and dandy and nothing bad happens and they make friends and they get all these gifts, but that's exactly how they get them. That's exactly how they get you. Because while there's no current issues, these babies, Muggles and Joy, are getting used to being taken off to second locations and just going wherever they're told to go. Be like, go help my friend who's out in the middle of nowhere, my friend who seems very lonely and sad. Go see if you can help him out. Go be a helpful fish. And you and I both know that there are some dog shit people out there. So what happens when Professor Shark sends them to someone with ill intentions and they don't have the social skills or abilities to sniff out the bullshit, because everyone acts like that in their fish lives. They say that they're afraid of predators at some point, which is just rich because they're worried about the wrong fucking type of predator. Oh my God, this movie is gonna be the fucking death of me. It's gonna be the death of these fucking fish. Hades, make room for me down there. I'm coming down sooner than we thought. What do you mean there's no room? You had to make space for Mitch McConnell? Why haven't I heard about this? You'd think it'd be on the news or something. Sorry, where was I? Joy is so Michelle Duggar pilled that she speaks in almost the exact like keep sweet voice that we know she uses. So when she says to Professor Shark, "No need to thank us, we're honored to serve you, our teacher, and God, our creator," it just makes me want to fucking vomit. Professor Shark really continues to dig his nails or his fins or his teeth into these babies because he suggests that because they're so devoted and they act in such great ways that Muggles and Joy should fucking teach a Sunday class. And Joy, as the girl, is like, oh my gosh, that'd be such a privilege. And Muggles is immediately ready to enact him being the tough man and give homework and dole out punishment. Immediately they fall into their gender roles. Like, I cannot fucking make this up. I thought that this movie was gonna just be silly, funny, and then done. But instead, I'm watching a fish-themed movie about cults and indoctrination and baby fish being groomed. And yet I'm going to finish this and you're going to finish watching. They end up talking about the reef, and Professor Shark reminds Joy and Muggles that they all could have given up in the end, but they didn't. And Joy is like, no way, we could have never given up, Professor Shark. We love our school. And he, of course, like agrees with her, but then he reminds her that sometimes love and passion and all these things just, it isn't enough for some people to bounce back. And he says that it often takes faith specifically and perseverance to get back to where you once were, which, as usual, I don't love the phrasing of. I think that if you go through something seriously traumatic, there's no real ever going back. Like, that stuff's happened. It's bad and it's horrible and you probably didn't deserve to go through it, but you can't go back to what was. You can only move forward with what is now and where you're at now. TLDR, trauma affects the brain 100%. You can't pray it away. You need professional help. And pretending that it's not there and just pushing through and pushing through and pushing through is only going to cause you more issues in the future. It's okay to need to take a step back. It's okay to mourn what you once lost, but it's also your job to find a new normal and accept that this new normal is going to be hard, but you will get through it. Anyway, they all talk some more, and then Professor Shark mentions a new character that needs some help, and their name is Boocakes. Boocakes. Apparently, he lost his home when the reef got destroyed, so naturally the babies want to help, and they're off. Godspeed. They first run into Pete, the wacky trumpet fish. He informs the babies that Boocakes is feeling really down, but not to worry too much because his faith is strong. Boocakes is a manta ray. The babies talk about how they lost their home and have already rebuilt a bigger and better one, which is just kind of like rude because Boocakes is still homeless. Quit fucking rubbing it in. He gives some sass, much like Scary Henry did, and is like, huh, good for you, I guess. Muggles tries to enact his gaslighting move again to Boocakes and being like, come on, things ain't so bad. You still have your health and us as friends. Joy also reminds him that Jesus still loves him too. So that's fine. We got that covered at least. And Boocakes is actually being pretty reasonable while he's down on the dumps. He's like, I know things will be fine. I really liked my home. And they don't really like let him kind of sit with that and just try to be like, it'll be fine. You'll be great. Things are going to be fine. We're still your friends. And it's just like, guys, learn some fucking empathy and time and place. I beg of you. They try to tell Boocakes that one of the gifts that Jesus gave them was the ability to overcome difficulties. And it's like, yeah, no shit. But also like, you shouldn't need Jesus to have given that to you as a gift. Muggles quotes Jeremiah 8:4 to Boocakes, which is all about how like, if a person falls down or messes up or like, they do something wrong, that they're always going to come back or get up or persevere or whatever. It also is sort of like a quote about like how if man goes down the wrong path, he'll come back. And then Muggles also quotes Proverbs 14:32, which says that the wicked are crushed by disaster, but the godly have a refuge for when they die. Hold on. I don't understand this. What is it actually trying to say here? Hold on. Okay, we need to do a Bible study. So Jeremiah 8:4 is like, when you're down, you get back up. You make a mistake, you just admit it, and you come back to your center. Okay. Well, that tracks, given the whole lesson trying to be about how like Jesus gave us the ability to overcome difficulties, perseverance, all that crap. But it's the Proverbs part that's really getting to me. Are they trying to say that by not getting back up, you're a part of the wicked? Because you gave up. So when you die, you're going to be punished because you just didn't keep on swimming. So everyone who gives up is just going to hell, and everyone who didn't and just kept pushing through is going to go to heaven. Might be off my rocker, but if that's what they're trying to say here, that's absolutely fucked. And what gets me even more is that when Muggles is done quoting the Proverbs part, Joy says, now that's how we handle failure. So that leads me to think I'm fucking right. They're being taught that if you give up, if you don't get back up, if you don't keep trying to just persevere and push through, then you're going to hell. That's what they're being taught. So in their minds, in their tiny baby minds, they have to keep going because hell's bad. Hell is like the worst fucking place you could be. Is this how some Christians are able to villainize suicide? It's selfish or bad because you gave up and didn't revel in Jesus's blessings. But if life sucks and you've gone through horrible things, I'm not saying suicide is the answer. It's never the answer. It does get better. Reach out to someone, I beg you. But like, as someone who has mental health issues, like I get it. I've been down on my luck. I've thought, what's the fucking point? Now, I don't need to be like, but Jesus, to get me through those thoughts. I just think, no, life's better and I remember the good things I have. I don't need fucking Jesus in the back of my head all the time to make these things right. Oh my God, this is why I don't like Christianity. Like, I'm all for people practicing their religion in whatever way speaks to them in whatever way they want, so long as it doesn't harm other people or judge them. But that is exactly what Christians do. They say harmful things and they judge people, and the world is often worse off for it because Christians are so loud and obnoxious and so in your face about this. It's just, that's why I feel justified oftentimes making fun of Christians, because they are causing problems and therefore you kind of get what you give. Karma comes back to you. I don't have to like you because of the actions that you choose to do. Like, you can do them. Don't get me wrong. I don't have to agree or like the things that you say or do. And oftentimes I don't like the things that Christians say or do. And I know before a bunch of you come in here saying, I'm a Christian and I don't act this way. I know there's a lot of good people out there who follow Christianity and like the real version of it, not the insane side of things. There are people who genuinely practice what Jesus said, and good for you. Like, good. I love that. I think when I see what Christianity can do, I think it's awesome. But far more often than not, it is used as a weapon. It is used to fearmonger. It is used to control. It is used to spread hate. And that's why I feel fully justified ripping into this movie and making fun of the people who made it and the characters and the things that they say and do, because it's a part of the fucking pattern. It's just trying to continue this vicious cycle, get the kids in there, raise them up to believe these things, push them off, and start the next cycle of the next generation. And that's why I feel I'm allowed to make fun of this fuck-ass movie, because, yeah, also it's my YouTube channel. Anyway, a lot of tangents for this story. The scene ends, Boo Cake's still being a little sad, but the babies convince him to go out and, like, try to solve the problem because Jesus gave them the tools they needed to persevere or solve our problems in the Christian approved way, I guess. They end up finding a spot. Boo Cakes ends up loving the new area, and this prompts the babies to be all cocky, like, see, having faith and working hard does work wonders for your attitude. Like, bro, faith didn't fix that. You just got him a fucking home. They also have a conversation about how Jesus always has a reason for the things that he makes you go through and how it might not make sense in the moment, but it will eventually. And Boo Cakes likes this and then comments how this new place actually might be better than his old place. It actually might be perfect. It's bigger so that he can have more Rays live with him or in the area with him. So Muggles and Joy return to Professor Shark to tell him all about Boo Cakes and his new home. And I guess Boo Cakes is a realtor because Joy mentions that about 12 other Rays came to check out the place. So seems like Boo Cakes is going to be a landlord now. Our last story is here. Muggles and Joy spend the morning helping clean out other reefs. They mention some pollution like bottles and tires. And this gave me a split second of hope for a story about environmental stuff, but no, it's just mentioned. The babies go see Professor Shark and they learn that he's the one down in the dumps today. Why? Not because of any personal issues, because of Fizzy from a few episodes again. So there is some continuity. We are getting some repeats. I love that. Apparently, Fizzy and her friend Rosie were supposed to have a play date, but Fizzy never showed up, and now Rosie is all upset. So the babies go off to figure out if Fizzy is being genuinely rude or if she just forgot. And apparently that's like on brand for her, so that's what they're thinking the case is. Muggles and Joy swim off and they find little Rosie, who's a cute little seahorse, and Rosie is like convinced that Fizzy doesn't want to be friends anymore and that she's skipping hanging out with Rosie to go hang out with Ronnie the redfish, who I guess is supposed to be like a local bully or like popular fish. But Muggles and Joy try relentlessly to get Rosie to like see other perspectives and think of like why else Fizzy might not be there. They run things by her like maybe she just forgot. Maybe she got her fin stuck like that one time, or stuck in a porthole of a sunken ship like that other time or something. They really are relentless at trying to excuse Fizzy for why she's not showing up. And Rosie at one point is like, guys, it's fine. Like, I'm not like super mad. I'm just a little disappointed because I was looking forward to play. And like, that's valid. They end up convincing Rosie that there must be something else and they're going to go investigate. So Rosie stays back while they go and investigate. And when they find Fizzy, they ask what's up and she tells them, you want to know what the issue was? She thinks their play date is tomorrow. Literally. That's it. Just a stupid miscommunication story. That Muggles and Joy help Rosie and Fizzy make amends. They go off and play. They tell Professor Shark what the issue was. They do their stupid ass laughs again. And that's the end. Praise the gods, I got through this thing. What did I think of this movie? Or compilation, really? I thought it was shit. It's stupid. It's poorly written. It has little to no effort put into the actual animations. Overall, it's just terrible in every way, shape, or form. Something I also just don't love a lot, oftentimes in Christianity, and I'm not sure if this is even going to make it into the video, but I'll say it because I think it's important to say, is if you need some type of higher power, like a sky daddy, to be out there keeping you accountable and making sure that you learn the lessons of what not to do, maybe, just maybe, you're a bad person and you need to work on yourself. Because I am not very religious. I, again, am more spiritual in my own personal practice, but I wasn't raised with Jesus bullshit teaching me to be a good person. My mom just said, don't be mean to people, and I didn't need anything more than that. Religious morals and beliefs can be great guidelines for life, but they shouldn't be the one thing that we need to keep us, you know, in line following the rules. That's what I gotta say. That's kind of my wrap up. I think this movie's shit. I think that Professor Shark is a groomer. I think Bubbletown is a cult town. But yeah, go watch the movie for yourself. It's stupid. It's bad. I cut a lot of parts out. But get some friends, get some mind-altering substances, get some snackies, and have a bad movie night. Like, you're gonna hate yourself, but remember, you can put it on 2-speed and it'll be done in a half hour. So I am working on another really long one. It's a book review. I'm going to dabble into that a little bit. I'm really excited. If you go read the post that I made a few days ago, it'll tell you a little bit about what it might be about. Try not to give away too many spoilers, but buckle up, bitches. It's a doozy. In the meantime, though, make sure you stab the like button, stab the subscribe button. Have a good day, be safe, make good choices, and I will see you in the next one. Adios. I have fallen for the fish propaganda of the United States of America.